3 years after the record-breaking Kickstarter, Torment Tides of Numenera is finally playable on Steam Early Access. I'm Bertie from Eurogamer, and I've somehow convinced creative lead of the project, Colin McComb, to talk us through what's in store. Hello, Colin. Thank you for being with us today. So you're going to talk us through, or we're both going to walk through gameplay from the beta of Torment Tides of Numenera, which has just entered early access beta on Steam now. When I say now, I mean the 26th. Is it the 26th of January it comes out?
Yeah, that would be tomorrow.
So we're in. What are we looking at in front of us? Who are these people?
Right now, the person in black is the last cast-off. That's the player character. The person in red is Calisty. She is a nano, which is similar to a wizard, but she's essentially fractured herself through the dimensions. So there's a whole bunch of different realities of her shaking around.
Right. So this is the funny blurry effect that's around her.
Yeah, that is totally intentional. Those are all just like quantum realities of her that are shaking around her.
So she sounds really powerful. She looks cool as well. I mean, she looks a lot cooler than the other guy who's just standing there in a. But he's us, so he's also cool.
Yes, he is actually going to be. He's going to turn cool, but right now he's basically just been born.
Oh, okay. He's quite big for a baby.
He is. Well, he had his full life, and then he got abandoned by his original consciousness.
Let's give a little bit of background here, because I know what you mean when you say he's just been born, but people who are watching this maybe don't. So what do you mean when you say this guy's just been born?
Well, he's a cast-off of a guy called the Changing God, who basically creates bodies, lives in them for a while, and then abandons them for new bodies that he's created. So when his consciousness leaves, the new cast-off consciousness is born inside that body. So this person has just been dropped from a thermospheric height and crashed into a dome where he ran into Calistige and Allegern. And we've gone through the Reef of Fallen Worlds here. Allegern, a different companion, and Calistige had a big fight, and you had to choose between one of them. We chose Calistige in this case.
What's this we're seeing happening before us now? So we're doing some sort of bartering or some sort of conversation.
That is our difficult task UI. Essentially, we are trying to improve our chances of a memory thing here, and we're essentially spending points from our intellect pool in order to try to remember what's happening. But we failed.
And so the system or the type of game that people are seeing here, this is a role-playing game in the style of the old CRPGs. Lots of dialogue, lots of text dialogue that you see in the box coming up, lots of decisions, lots of reactivity, and Torment in the name obviously heralds back to Planescape Torment, which was a sort of deep and philosophical game about the nature of man. But set in Dungeons and Dragons. This has similar themes, but is set in a new world of Numenera, a new role-playing world of Numenera. So there's lots of strange stuff going on here that we'll see as we play through.
Right. So right now we're talking to Zeofi the Sculptor, and he has sculpted a creature. There's a monster that's chasing us called the Sorrow. That's essentially some sort of big acid rage monster that's been chasing the Changing God all this time. And we don't know why it's after us. And so we run across this guy and we see the sculptures that he's creating, and now we're uncovering what he saw and trying to figure out what it is that he's, what he's trying to do with us, with his sculptures. Sorry, I'm totally busy reading this right now, and I'm like, Gavin did a good job writing this.
So there's someone over here buying and selling memories. What? How do you do that? Broken Dreams on sale, 5 for a shin.
But there's all sorts of essentially the ninth world of Numenera is the basic dictum behind it is Arthur C. Clarke's famous, any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. Okay. So this is a place where there are is such high technology that's left around from the inhabitants of previous worlds that people don't understand it, and it's essentially high fantasy with science fiction elements.
Okay, so our character here, what are we trying to do? We're just trying to figure out what the hell we are, what's going on, why we're being chased.
Yes, and we the main goal we have right now is to repair the resonance chamber. That is something that a memory inside our head told us we need to get in order to stop the sorrow from attacking us anymore. So we were running around the city and trying to find people who might be able to tell us stuff about that. But in the meantime, we've discovered this weird octopus creature called a Nyctemeron, trapped inside this energy cage. And being distractible, we're checking that out.
It is a strange-looking octopus.
Yeah, it's essentially an octopus ichthyoid thing mounted on top of a floating metal sphere, and it's got, if you look closely, you can see like scalpels and injectors and little laser things attached to it, and it's really pissed off about being inside this cage.
So
this guy here, I've never been quite sure if it's El Hinto or El Jinto. He's one of our backer NPCs, and we have woven all of our backer NPCs into the story here. So these guys are adventurers who have collected that thing as part of a greater plot to return to their homeland and trap a god, essentially.
So backer NPCs are the people who pledged enough money to be written into the game.
Right.
Okay. Because we should point out to people who aren't aware, Torment Tides of Numenera was, I think maybe still is, the most funded game on Kickstarter. Not the most funded crowdfunded game, because that's Star Citizen now with its enormous £100 million. But Torment is maybe the champion on Kickstarter. I don't know.
I think Ukulele beat us. I think there have been a couple things that have now surpassed us, but at the time we were definitely the highest.
And how's that been, making a game? Because you've had to put backers in the game here. I mean, do you expect the game to change much now the backers are playing it? How's it been? Has the game changed much from what you thought it would be, and then the backers were like, I don't want that, let's change it?
No, everybody has been surprisingly helpful. Thomas Bakers, our associate producer, was coordinating with people to make sure that they were happy with the way they were being depicted in the game. So we were running character descriptions and ideas past people. And everybody has been, just really happy to be a part of it, and they haven't made any, unreasonable demands. And some people have taken on more importance in the quests than others, just because of the nature of the character background they provided us.
So, what's the name of this area that we're in currently?
This is Circus Minor. It is the first area we've run into in the city of Sagus Cliffs. Okay.
And how big is this area?
Boy, it's hard to say. Do you mean Circus Minor itself, or Sagus?
I guess how much is going to be available of the world in the beta, and then I guess how big is the world generally?
Let's see. So this is going to be probably about 30 to 40%. I'd say probably about 30% of the final game here.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
It is, but there's, this is basically Act 1 at this point. We haven't even completed Act 1 to this point here. So this is still very much an introductory area.
And how long do you expect the a playthrough of the beta to take people? How much kind of game is there?
Boy, I'm estimating about 10 hours.
Okay.
And somebody could totally speed run their way through it, but if somebody's doing all the reading and paying attention and talking to everybody, then I would say could get a good 10 hours out of this.
Because that's the point, isn't it? In a game like this, is talking to people, and as people are seeing now, reading the dialogue and really getting into the scene that way, because this game isn't cinematic in the same way, let's say, a BioWare game is. A lot of this takes place in the dialogue before you, or the writing before you.
Yeah. We BioWare is able to do stuff with full voice acting, and they've got a lot of resources that we don't have. We've got $5 million in crowdfunding. So that sounds like a lot of money, but as soon as you start checking out where all of that goes into the various pots, it's like, ooh, that's not much at all. Especially for a game that's trying to be this ambitious.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, in some ways you can do much more in text than you can that way anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't do a whole lot of cutscenes, like cinematic cutscenes here, for instance. We can describe the way people act and move. Oh, let me point out here. This is the cult of the Changing God. These are people who worship my creator.
Okay.
And you can see they're reacting to us here. Very excited, because they're like, oh my god, it's a cast-off of the Changing God. This is so cool. This guy is, an envoy of our Holy One.
And are there many cast-offs, or are we the only one?
There are a number of them, but in the city there are very few. They tend to sort of hide themselves because the Changing God's pretty famous. And as we'll see from these guys' dialogue, they're essentially Changing God groupies.
So where has the Changing God gone at this point?
That is one of the mysteries. But at the beginning of the game, essentially, he's been pursued by the Sorrow, and then got thwacked by it as he was escaping his biomoon floating high above the world. His consciousness was jarred loose, and that's when yours was born. So you wake up plummeting toward the earth, and you don't know what's going on.
And then, as you say, we meet this lady in red that is with us, and she joins us for...
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And she's, she has her own ulterior motives as to why she's helping us. But she's very smart, split across 1,000 worlds, as I said, or millions of worlds. But she's essentially a node in a network, perceiving all the nodes around her. So she's just a little bit insane.
We're seeing quite a lot of dialogue and exploration in a kind of hub area here. But obviously there's going to be combat at some point, which is going to break into, we've talked before, and it's going to break into two systems: crises, which are scripted, very sort of crafted encounters, and tussles, which are more standard events. And of course, as I was mentioning earlier, this is based on, not on Dungeons and Dragons, but a new role-playing game called Numenera. How different is that all going to feel to people? Because this will look quite familiar to people, but how different are the mechanics going to feel?
I think they will probably be a little more intuitive. We're still the beta here. Our UI is still pretty rough. We're trying to make it so that it's a lot more intuitive with every moment and every action that you're taking. But I think that people will find the combat pretty straightforward. And a crisis is not necessarily going to be combat. There's going to be interactions with environmental objects, or you can try and talk to your enemies and talk them out of fighting. Or if you take out key enemies, the others will be like, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here.
Okay.
Whereas tussles, we are less handcrafting them. It's basically you get to a point in a dialogue where you just make somebody incredibly angry, and they say, you know what, I've had enough of this, and then it's just a fight. But it's we've tried to avoid having you just walk across the map and suddenly somebody spots you and goes aggro on you.
And there's an underlying morality system at work as well called tides. And that is, it'd probably be best if you explained it. That's, you can shift towards certain tides by giving or behaving in a certain way.
That's correct. There are 5 tides that correspond to colors, essentially. Blue, which is wisdom, spirituality, enlightenment. Red, which is like passion, creation, or violence. indigo, which is about community or the greater good, gold, which is about empathy and compassion, and then silver, which is about fame or power. And in this playthrough here, we are actually primarily silver, which we will see later.
What's this happening that we can see on the screen now? It's gone a bit crazy.
This is our memory effect. We have touched a thing that has sparked a memory.
Okay.
So this is how we're signaling that it's not real time, not real world. This is something happening in your mind. So the machine has recognized something inside of us, and now we're like, oh well, this strange clock face. What's going on? Let's see if we can go repair it.
So what kind of character roles are we able to go for in the game? What kind of character are we here? What kind of character choices? Have we got familiar wizard, fighter, barbarian, monk, rogue characters? What kind of thing can we expect and hope to be?
In Numenera, your character creation is essentially an adjective, noun, who verbs. So, like, I am a stealthy nano who rides the lightning.
Wow.
The descriptor there essentially gives you modifiers to your attributes, which are might, intellect, and speed. Then the noun is your type, essentially. A glaive, which is a warrior type. A jack, which is sort of a warrior mage. It's a cross between that and the nano, who is really more the mage, as I was mentioning earlier. The jack is more of a jack of all trades kind of thing, so it's not specializing in one or the other.
And how will we change over time? Will we be able to, for instance, will we get very powerful in the game? Will we become kind of demigods or maybe gods in our own right, or will it be a slower kind of a more subtle progression?
You will get very powerful in this game.
Oh, good.
We're not going to allow class switching right now because the class structure in Torment or in Numenera is they're vastly different abilities. So respeccing everything would be just sort of a disaster.
Okay, and how do items work in the game? Are they similar to what kind of things we've come across before?
Somewhat similar, yeah. There are three major classes of Numenera, which are essentially the artifacts left over from previous worlds. There's oddities, which are essentially like toy robots that march around, or little glowing balls that don't really do anything. There's ciphers, which are one-use magic items, kind of like potions. And then there are artifacts, which allow you to use them multiple times. The cool thing about ciphers, they're essentially like free special abilities that do really neat things for you. But if you carry too many of them at once, then you get cipher sickness. That's essentially a combination of the radiation or the effects that these things are putting off interact with each other, and they poison you.
Okay. Will we see a combat encounter in this footage?
No,
Okay.
Sadly.
Okay, so it might be worth talking about one then. How does a combat encounter play out? I mean, again, thinking of it from a kind of Dungeons and Dragons point of view, is it a similar deal or is it quite different?
I think it's pretty similar. It's we have gone turn-based on this, and instead of real-time with pause, because we felt that we took a poll of our backers, and by a narrow margin, they decided that's what they wanted.
Yay!
Yeah, and, well, it was also, it was sort of where we were leaning, so we were happy that people said that. But it was, it's going to be a turn-based thing, so people will be, taking their turns and applying their abilities. It's essentially you get a move and an action, or two moves in order to get where you want around the board, and then you get to use your abilities to affect the creatures around you. Or you can move over to something and interact with it and like change the environment, and that will work in your favor.
And when we die, we have to reload. It's game over, or
Let's see. When you die, actually, here in Circus Minor, when you die, you will wake up in a cave that is run by the Dendra O'Her, which is essentially a group of cannibals who eat the dead to memorialize them.
They sound nice.
They are nice because they save your memories for you.
So here we're seeing the bread and butter of any good role-playing game. We're seeing the it's gone, the menu.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Is it going to be? Will we spend a lot of time in the menus?
Probably sometime. There's going to be interactions with things in the menus as well as there were in Planescape Torment. When you can go and click on like Morty's teeth, for instance, and you can talk about those. So we're going to be having some interactions there.
Fantastic.
And the character upgrade and changing your abilities around and so forth. We'll be doing some of that. So here we are. We're about to convince these cultists of the Changing God that we are the Changing God.
Oh, sneaky. And they're going to go for that? They don't. They believe that.
They will believe it.
Wow. Gained 100 XP. That was a big one.
Yeah. There's still some balance going on here. So we've convinced them that we're the Changing God, but this guy, you can see that Casmine is very excited about this. She's essentially meeting Robert Plant backstage here. So she's she's very excited to talk to you. But Mimion is the more dubious of the two of them, and he's going to try to trap you. Ha ha, he says.
Sneaky.
So he's you can say, oh dear. Well, let's see.
What's a tidal surge that we see there?
Well, that is you using your tides.
Okay.
To essentially affect them. So in this case, we've just changed their minds with the force of our will. Essentially, we've rewritten their brains.
That sounds like a very nice ability.
It is, except it's almost always bad for the person you do it to. There's always going to be repercussions to it. So they caught you, and you have just totally erased that problem.
So you talk about repercussions, and in games like this, choice and consequences is always a huge draw. Are those systems at work here? If we do something like that, will the consequences of that come up later?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've got the reactivity in this is off the charts. George Zeitz, our lead area designer, has done just a fantastic job of plotting out the way things change and get different, and the reactivity that he has built into this stuff is amazing. It's thrilling to be working with him because I'm just like, oh my god, you are so goddamn good at this.
And how we've met one character here. Presumably, we're going to be meeting a whole cast of characters, or is the cast quite small? Or
we'll be meeting more. There's not a whole lot of CNPCs in this game because we wanted to make sure that the ones we do have we would be doing right. So we didn't want to just sort of have trash CNPCs either. We wanted to make sure that every interaction with everybody is meaningful and feels good.
Yeah, and that reminded me. XP in this game, we won't be getting XP for combat, is that right?
That's correct. You get XP for doing for finding things out. So we don't want to reward people for saying, "Here, go kill this," because that's not what Numenera is about. It's not about killing things and taking their stuff. It's about finding out cool things.
And how much combat will there be? How many combat encounters? How important are combat skills? And sometimes people focus a lot on dialogue skills, and they feel shortchanged then when it comes to combat encounters. What's the balance like here?
We've got 13 crises, which are the as we mentioned earlier, the combat and the and talking and environmental interaction. But we've also got a pile of tussles that can go onto that. And for the tussles, you're going to want the fighting skills. But for crises, it's good to have the dialogue skills as well. So this is Allegern, who was the dude who we bailed to go with Calistige. Those two really hate each other a lot.
Okay. Where are we now? We're inside somewhere. What are these? There's some funny things on the wall here. They look like little mouths.
Yeah, they're. I'm not exactly sure what those are. A lot of the things in the Ninth World are just not explained. They're mysterious, and we will never find out what they are. Right now, we're down in the underbelly. This is beneath the city, and it will be coming up here to talk to the foreman pretty soon. Over here, we see the tail cone of a rocket. Essentially, some of these structures in the building above us have been built around rocket ships, and so they're using the engines for forges now.
So the people of the world have no idea or concept of what a rocket is, or
they might have some idea if they're particularly learned. Otherwise, they're just like, "Holy crap! It's a big blast furnace."
Yeah. It's a great looking environment. They've got there's lots of character and personality to the environments.
Yeah, I've been really happy with our environmental artists as well. Like I said, this team is really a huge treat to be working with. Everybody's just really dedicated to making sure this is the coolest thing we can possibly make it.
So we're currently we're just about to hit wide early access, and then there's the release after that. inXile, the company making this, the last game they had in early access, which was Wasteland 2, spent quite a long time in early access. Do you have any idea how long Torment's going to be in early access for? Because some people won't want to play it while it's not quite finished. They want to wait.
Yeah, a few months at least. We want to make sure that we're polishing stuff up and addressing the bugs and getting everything shipshape. Essentially, we don't want to be shipping with a lot of bugs where people are saying, "Oh, you guys shipped a game that's just essentially broken." So we want to make sure that everything works, or at least works well enough that you can finish the game.
Yeah, and once it's out, what is there any? Do you have any idea? What the future of this game is? Is it this game and this game? Is it, or is there an option to make it go on further?
I am not sure I'm allowed to talk about that.
It's a secret.
It is a secret.
Oh well, that's good. That makes it sound good.
Yeah. I could have said no comment, I suppose, but that's just a jerky way of saying it's a secret, I guess. So this, the person who wrote this is Gavin Jurgens-Fury. We hired him, or we got him as a contractor last year, right around Rezzed, actually.
Okay.
And we have inXile has recently hired him full time, which I think is a fantastic move because he's a great writer. He's hilarious and deep and thoughtful, and it's been a huge pleasure working with him. Every day we're joking around about stupid stuff and then making smart stuff, hopefully.
If someone comes to this game, because lots of people will have an interest in this game, some people will know exactly what it's about, but other people might be used to BioWare adventures, the new BioWare adventures, and think, oh, I like the sound of this. What's the experience going to be like for them? Is there going to be a difference in tone? Will they find it very different? What would you say to those people who are interested in the game?
I think it's a different flavor. The BioWare guys do really great work for what they do. What we're doing, I think, is different in that we are less cinematically oriented and more. And I want to say this in a way that's not insulting to BioWare because I tremendously respect what they do. I guess ours is more. We're trying to be more literary. This is less a cinematic experience and more a literary experience. So there's a whole lot more reading, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And you can, because of that, we touched on this earlier. The shackles are off in some regards. Also because it's not a blockbuster game in that regard. You can almost go deeper into your subject matter because you know that people will go with you.
Right. Right. Yeah, and we don't. We're not trying to appeal to the mass market here. We're making this game for our backers first and foremost because they're the ones who pledged for this. And then if the mass market loves it, that's great. But we've made this game for our backers.
I like the peaceful music tinkling along in the background.
Yeah, Mark Morgan has done some really fantastic work for us. He's really talented. Every time a new track of his comes in, it's we all just basically take some time off and just sit around and listen to it.
It's nice because in games like this you spend a lot of time in certain environments, and if a track is too intrusive, it can get on your nerves. But it's just got a bit more sinister. I guess we've looked. What are those things?
These are Styka. They are insectile burrowing creatures that came from a different world, and their eggs were planted here by somebody. It's essentially somebody's treating this ninth world like Australia. So they're burrowing under the city, and okay. So here's where there's some silver reactivity going on. By the way, some silver tide reactivity.
Okay.
This lady is much more polite to you right now. She's very excited about talking to you. She says, "I beg your pardon." Whereas if you are not silver dominant, she is much ruder and more imperious to you. But she's essentially saying to you that these insects are ruining the city above them because they're digging through this rock.
So, how many different tides did you say you were? They're all linked to colours. Was that?
Yeah, there's 5 of them. The mnemonic we use in house is Briggs. That's blue, red, indigo, green, or gold, silver. And silver is the one about fame and power. So she's essentially, she's sucking up to power. So, entering the Styka layer here, as she suggests, is something that will possibly, even likely, lead to combat.
Ah, okay. How much combat is in the early access release?
Let's see. As far as the crises go, there's the Sorrow Fragments, there's Quoro, there's the Styka. Trying to remember if there's other stuff in the Fifth Eye as well, which is a tavern for psychic veterans.
Okay. So here we're having a look at an item we just got.
Yep, this is going to allow us to essentially pull up the entire mini-map.
I think we're just coming to the end of what we've got to show. So I should say thank you very much to you, Colin McComb, for joining us and walking us through your game. What, some blood splattered on the floor there?
That's an entirely different quest called Circles in Red.
And the very best of luck with the early access. I think there's lots of people excited to get their hands on this, me included. So the best of luck with that and with release later this year. Well,
thank you very much. I think that everybody should know about your important part in making this happen. So, it was because of you that I talked to Chris, and then because of talking to Chris that I talked to Brian Fargo, and because of talking to Brian Fargo that we got Torment launched in the first place. So
you just helped the stars align.
Well, you can take the credit for that.
But yeah, thank you very much.
Hello, here's a quick warning before we jump in. As you may have gathered from the video's title, we're going to be talking about Pillars of Eternity for big RPG time. Excellent. Anyway, to be a little bit more specific, we're looking at the introduction to Pillars of Eternity, and so there will be a number of spoilers from roughly the first 30 minutes of the game. Worth bearing in mind if you're yet to play Obsidian's latest or haven't already cleared this first area right here. So what's special about this?